Thank you to the beautiful group of people who joined us on a Thursday afternoon, end of day for some people. This is the Fathom webinar about text analytics, and we're really going to focus today on how to get more value out of your text analytics in order to help an agency thrive, how to deliver value that delivers more for your current clients, helps you gain efficiencies within the organization, increase productivity, increase morale. This was one of the surprises we started to hear about, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things, increasing the morale within your team, and also delivering new value, creating opportunity for new products and new value adds that you are able to build on top of that really high quality text analytics once you have really high quality text analytics in place. So those are the three biggest components we're going to talk about today. My name is Tova. I'm one of the co-founders at Fathom. I'm going to be in the Q&A, so feel free to drop those questions in there. I'll be capturing them, making sure that we answer them all at the end. I'll also support anything else that comes up along the way. My co-founder, Michiah, is going to do most of the presentation today, and I'll hand it to him to introduce himself in just a second. And we also have Jonathan Forbes from our team. Some of you will know Jonathan, leads CS at Fathom. He's the one that makes you those wonderful videos, the how-to videos and the knowledge base articles, and answers your questions in Intercom. So he's also on today and capturing all of the sort of questions that come up and helping to make sure we connect those to product features and to circle back with you. So without any other moments from me, I'm going to kick it over to you, Michiah, to get us started.
Okay, thank you so much, Tova, and thank you everyone for joining. As Tova said, my name is Michiah, co-founder and CEO at Fathom. I'm going to go ahead and move us into a screen share here. We're going to spend the first half an hour or so talking through something I'm really excited about, which is how to leverage text analytics specifically for an agency. And as I'll talk about, one of the reasons that I'm very excited about this is that I used to lead an agency along with Tova. And so we've lived this experience, and one of the just delights of Fathom is the ability to work with people like yourselves, not only to provide sort of the nuts and bolts of text analytics, but really truly to help you build a stronger agency. So I'm going to move us over here and we'll go into slideshow for 20, 30 minutes or so. We'll do a quick little demo of some of the key highlights, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. And as Tova said, you can always grab more time with us. So for anyone who's new to Fathom, what we do is text analytics, and what makes us different is that we provide the highest quality text analytics in the industry. I'll tell you more what I mean by quality as we go, but the key thing is that we're doing this differently. We're leveraging both very powerful AI as well as human supervision, and it lets us develop a level of text analysis, particularly qualitative coding, that has much more detail, specificity, and accuracy than anything else out there. In short, it gives you what you would want if you were coding the entire data yourself without you ever having to code the data, which is what we always wanted when we were leading agencies. As a consequence, we work with really two categories of folks. Some who are on the call today are really on the agency side. We work with anything from 2 or 3 people in a relatively smaller agency, all the way up to a big 4 consulting firm, and everything in between are leveraging Fathom to support their text analysis, again, particularly with their survey open ends. We also work a lot with large brands. So you can think of an NPS or a CSAT or other types of consumer and customer insights applications where you really need to understand those open ends with the highest level of quality and depth and nuance. Now, before Fathom, part of what I want to take a few minutes is just to step back and actually describe where we're coming from. Because there are other text analytics tools out there, other research tech that are built by people who have no research experience, and that has some challenges. And there are people who have some research experience, but no agency experience. And it turns out Tova and I happen to have a significant amount of both research experience as well as experience building an agency. And that agency was called Avalanche. And we built this agency starting back in 2017. And what we really focused on and pioneered is mixed methods at scale. We called it something a little bit different, which I'll get to. But the pain point that we were after was something that we felt as consumers of research tools over years and years, which was that we wanted the depth we associated with a qualitative instrument really getting into that why, that much richer, more nuanced understanding of an audience, but we wanted it with the kind of rigor and scale that we would associate with a quantitative instrument. And while, of course, you can do multiple different kinds of methods within an overall research approach, we found that very frequently the approaches didn't talk to each other well. And so, what we pioneered at Avalanche were effectively large scale surveys. So, anything from 1 to 5 to 10,000 respondents with a good number of open ended questions in them, maybe 5 to 10 to 15 open ends in it. And through that combination of those closed ended variables, uh, really woven in with open-ended questions, we were able to deliver on a value proposition to our clients, which was to get much more deeply into the why. And we focused in a market where we both have a background, which is in the public opinion and public policy space. And so we were working on highly complex issues, asking these why questions, really trying to understand, how audience were relating to very complex and rapidly moving issues. And as a consequence, if you think of this kind of scale and this many open ends, you can quickly do the math that we were needing to make sense of tens of millions of open ends, and we were needing to do this very quickly, and we were needing to do this in an environment that was extremely high stakes and extremely quickly moving. And so we started out and we tried all the other text analytics tools. This was back in 2017, so naturally things have come in some ways a far distance since then. But fundamentally, the issues still remain with other text analytics tools, which is that very frequently the topics or the themes that they give you are very vague. So we were working in politics, and if we asked, 10,000 people the top issues they were worrying about, if I got something back that said economic issues, that was not nearly detailed enough for what I needed. I needed to know what exactly kinds of economic issues, how is it affecting their lives, how are they talking about it? So far too high level. Of course, missing critical context. So, one of the sort of funny examples of this is I was running a large study. Again, we were asking what are the most important issues for you, and the data came back from this tool, and they said, well, one of the top issues is infrastructure. Top of the list. And that, as a researcher, that kind of blew my mind because I thought, usually we got immigration, the economy, so on and so forth. Infrastructure usually not the top of the list. We looked at the data, and it turned out that the system had coded every reference to the wall to infrastructure, because it did not understand that in this particular context, references to the wall are obviously a reference to immigration. And so those kinds of contextual inaccuracies would drive us crazy. As a consequence, we would spend a ton of time manually trying to fix them. Very frequently, we would say, oh my God, this is so bad, we're just going to throw it out entirely and we're going to manually code it ourselves. And then even if we could code it all, you've got this really clunky spreadsheet where you're trying to do dynamic reporting, you're trying to pull verbatims, you're trying to run segmentation analysis, and none of that is easy. And so as a consequence, over the years, we built our own tool. And what we found is that the magic to get the level of quality that we demanded, which was very high, with highly contextually adaptive, could handle that kind of environment, could handle that kind of nuance, is to combine AI with human supervision, to let the machine do what the machine is very good at, but allow the human to really define what the code frame is, define what the theme should be, guide the system towards coding it in the way that actually answers your research questions. And then we started building a reporting suite around that, which was, okay, now that we've labeled it, how can we enable our team to very quickly do rapid turnarounds? In this kind of environment, we were doing, 24-hour turnarounds with a 10,000 person sample with a ton of qualitative in it, right? So that kind of capability is critical, not only in the labeling, but also the analysis and the reporting, and being able to provide that on to our customers. And so in short, we were very successful. We became one of the leading firms in our particular market, and we had a tremendous amount of impact on what we were looking to achieve. We guided billions of dollars in the election cycles in which we were working, and given that success, the agency itself was acquired last year. But we were really passionate about this technology and this capability that we had built, and so we held on to that and we turned that into Fathom. And so the reason that I tell you this story is that we have spent the better part of the last decade understanding how to leverage text analytics to build a highly successful agency, both in terms of the business economics and the well-being of the people within that agency, as well as the impact that we had with our clients. And so we come to this conversation about how it is that you can leverage text analytics with a lot of experience under our belts. Um, and now with Fathom, we are very excited for you to be able to do the same thing. It's frankly my favorite part about Fathom is being able to work with folks like yourselves on the agency side. And so what we're going to talk through today is what I think of as 3 stages of how leveraging text analytics can benefit your agency and your clients. Um, the first level that we're going to talk about that I think of as the foundation is really around the things that usually come first to mind when we think about ideally a good text analytics solution is it should boost efficiency. It should save you time. There should be benefits from that. From there, we're going to talk about new product offerings. You can see where we're going with the Avalanche example, where you're really looking at offering new things to your customer as a consequence of having this text analytics capability. And then finally, the sort of pinnacle of this pyramid is when, as a consequence of these new products and these new capabilities, you're really able to position your business in a unique way that lets you deliver unique impact because you are approaching research in a differentiated way compared to every other agency that's doing the same polls and focus groups out there. So we're going to go through each one of these. I'm going to give you a little bit of detail on each of them. And again, at the end, I'm going to invite you to have a conversation with us if you want to follow up, book some time with us. And I would be very happy to really apply this to your agency and have a conversation about, where are you? Where could you get the most wins? Is it about boosting efficiency? Is it about creating new products? All that kind of thing. But first, let's go ahead and just walk through these in a little more detail. So on the efficiency side, I think this one is probably the most straightforward, which is you want a text analytics tool that takes you from doing a tremendous amount of highly time-intensive manual coding or outsourcing it to another kind of vendor that's costing you a lot of money. And you want something that's going to save you that time and money at a very basic level. So for example, our customers find that they decrease their time on the actual analysis of the open ends by a minimum of 70%. And when we roll in those reporting elements that I'm going to show you in the product that let you actually analyze the labeled data, the total time to go from the data to the output comes down from weeks to days in most cases for our customers. So that, of course, translates, just to be very practical as an agency, that translates into more time for you to do other things, as well as better financial performance because you're spending less time for each project that you're delivering. These are the fundamentals of what makes an agency really effective, and this can be a really big lever in that. As Tova alluded to at the top, one of the things we absolutely found and that we've been so happy to see with our customers is that not only does it save time, but it shifts the time of what your team is focused on. And so when you have an agency, I find usually you have a bunch of brilliant people who are really excited to get up in the day and ask curious questions and dive into the data, and that aha moment and the so what and all those things is what really drives their passion. What does not drive their passion is reading through Excel files with hundreds of thousands of rows trying to manually label data, or working with an external vendor that gets their code frame wrong and they spend all day going back and forth, or working with a different text analytics tool that says it's going to give you themes, but it doesn't give you themes, and you spend 18 hours trying to code 1,000 responses properly because the system just is not cooperating with your expectations, right? All of that drives frustration and burnout, and frankly also has your brilliant team focused on the things that aren't driving the most value. And so one of the things that we find that I just love as a former agency person is that when we work with people, they actually have sort of an emotional reaction to it. We were working with FGS Global, one of their lead researchers was working with a national sports association, and they do quarterly tracking brand surveys that are just enormous. And she was spending weeks and weeks and weeks trying to make sense of the open ends in that before. And she's used our product for the first time, and she literally told us that she could cry with joy, and she was not joking. And so we find this boost in morale is just one of the biggest sort of visceral impacts that you can have from a good tool that does genuinely save you time and effort and does genuinely move your insights process forward. So in many ways, that sort of boost in efficiency should be table stakes for a text analytics tool. Unfortunately, almost all of them out there still require a lot of manual effort. They don't actually meet that bar. But nonetheless, let's assume that foundation is in place. Once you have that, you then have the opportunity to start thinking about, okay, what new things can we do now that we have this capability? Most researchers, because they have not had a good text analytics solution, have gotten used to not including very many open ends in their research because of the headache and the time that they take, not analyzing the ones they do have very deeply, and really sort of limiting the possibilities of what they could be doing with surveys in a world in which you could be leveraging more open ends more frequently and getting a lot more out of them. And so in my mind, one of the biggest opportunities in adopting text analytics tool that really does deliver is the ability to start thinking about what are new types of offerings that we could be providing our customers beyond the standard surveys. And could we actually create a new product that we market? Not just we're going to do the same survey with the same open ends, we're going to do it a little faster, but can we actually come up with something new that has a distinct value proposition to our customers? Let's give it a certain kind of name and let's market it a certain kind of way and let's deliver that repeatedly. And so my experience in working with agencies is that sometimes this term of productizing, it's a little techy. It's not really comfortable as much for a lot of folks in the agency world that think more as sort of a service and offerings and customization. And all of that's really good. I will say the reason that I'm focused on this concept of productizing is that it is different than just incorporating text analytics into your work and doing the same work. The difference is that it's about creating a different kind of offering that is replicable and that it sounds like a small thing, but by giving it a name, you can actually position around it, you can price it, you can talk about the value proposition that provides. And so this is a really distinct opportunity that a lot of agencies have, particularly in this replicability. And this would be something we don't have as much time for today, will be something I would love to dive into more if anyone is interested, is how you actually create these products to be something that you can actually repeat in a very consistent way. Your team can get very skilled and confident and efficient with. And yet, because of the open-ended nature of the surveys themselves, you're collecting unique and nuanced data every time. It's one of the big opportunities here. So when I think about productizing text analytics, there's nearly infinite possibilities. So I'll just name check 3 categories. And I offer these as starting places to sort of get started and think about the possibilities. And there's ideas that mix, these categories. There are other things as well. And again, I'd be very happy to chat with anyone who's interested about your particular agency. What kinds of things are your customers asking for? What kinds of data do you have? What kinds of other platforms are you leveraging? How might you integrate this? All of those are important factors. But let's talk about 3 categories just to spark our thinking and get started. So the first are mixed method surveys. This is what we were talking about with Avalanche. I still believe the single most powerful, if I had one research methodology and it was all I could use, it is absolutely what I would use. The second is a qualitative driver analysis. I will talk more about what that means when we get there. And then the third piece is something I'm sure folks have thought about, may have seen out there, is with generative AI, there are more conversational data collection modes. Those can create an interesting experience for the respondent. They can also create a whole bunch of text that you need to make sense of. And of course, doing that effectively requires very high quality text analytics. So we have done a whole webinar. We've got a whole series of resources on why we believe mixed method surveys are the highest ROI research approach, because they give you all of the benefits you would associate with a survey. You can include all your multiple choice, all your other types of survey questions in there. But if you also include well-crafted open ends, you can get most of the benefits of qualitative depth as well, all within the same thing. So if this is something of interest, please do reach out, please do follow up. We have recorded webinars, we have resources, and again, it's something I would happily chat with you. The idea behind this, practically speaking, is very straightforward. You take a survey-based offering. This could be an internal survey to customers, it could be an external polling survey, and you weave in a larger number of open ends, and you do it in a very thoughtful way. And this is something we have, again, more resources on, but where you might ask, what's your top issue? How important is it to you? And sort of branch these issues between quant variables that let you segment your audience with qualitative variables that let you get at the why much more deeply. We sold this as Avalanche. This was 7 years ago, as delivering the depth of a focus group and the scale of a survey. And what's important about this is we didn't just sell it as another survey. We called it a listening instrument. You could come up with your own name for it. And we approached customers who were looking for more depth. And we found that that was most customers out there. They had some understanding of their audience and their issue, but they always wanted more depth. There were aspects of it that they couldn't crack. And we said, look, instead of spending $100,000 on a few more polls and a few more focus groups, you can spend half that much on a single instrument, and we're going to get you far more down the path of really understanding this issue. And we were able to deliver on that again and again and again. And so I think that's the key here, is that it's not actually more work for you than a survey if you're using a text analytics platform. In fact, in many cases, it's easier because you can systematize it. but you're delivering so much more value to your customer that you can then position it as a unique offering. You can price it in a premium manner. It will generate exceptional margins and or sort of not having to spend as much time per value that you're getting on this as well. So this is, I would say, the first place I would start were I starting a new agency or working in an existing one would be to say, okay, how do we create an offering where we're including more qualitative, we're doing a mixed method instrument, we're going to brand it in a certain way, we're going to create a thoughtful structure, we're going to rinse and repeat it, and we're going to use very high quality text analytics in order to deliver these unique insights to our customers. And trust me, we built a very successful business doing this. They will be very happy to pay quite a lot of money for that. The next category is what I've named here qualitative drivers analysis. You could use different terms for this. The idea is that if you use a very high quality text analytics tool like Fathom on something like, to pick an easy example, I'll say a customer satisfaction survey, you understand a tremendous number of dimensions of the qualitative customer experience. You can then take that data and combine it with other large-scale customer data, such as purchase behavior, for a simple example. And then you can model what are the types of qualitative experiences that drive customer spending. You can do this on brand analytics as well. You can say, what are some of the sort of qualitative, soft and fuzzy feelings that the brand teams always want to better understand about their brand that actually drive purchase behavior or other types of quantitative and behavioral outcomes for their key audiences, right? So this is a very powerful tool. It can be customized to a particular audience. One of our incredible customers, Emerald Research Group, does an incredible job of this with a product they called Emerald Apex, in which case they're doing a version of this using Fathom to get deep analytics into open ends within their customers' key surveys, and then combining that with other telemetry data in order to then come back to their customer with truly unique insights where they're able to talk about the qualitative experiences of their key audiences and connect the dots directly and very confidently to those quantitative business outcomes that matter to them. And again, this is something that you could either just be doing as a one-off or as a service, but the real opportunity is to productize it, to make it something you can repeat, to give it a name, and to then sell it appropriately as such a valuable product that it is. So that's the second category. And the final one that I'll touch on here is really leveraging new data collection mechanisms. So there's quite a lot of tools out there that will let you collect effectively survey respondent data in more dynamic or conversational ways. They might be video-based, they might be voice-based, they might be text-based, but at the end of the day, the idea is that a customer responds to an open end and an AI creates a follow-up prompt. So if you say, why would you not recommend this product? And you say, I think it's too expensive, then the AI is going to generate a prompt and say, okay, tell me exactly how much expensive, or tell me what price would work well for you, or something like that. That's the promise of these tools. We have worked with a lot of data that comes out of them. What we find is that the ones that are highly dynamic can actually be very difficult to analyze, even if you have perfect text analytics. But there are some that are what I would call semi-structured. So they follow up in a disciplined sort of a way. And as a consequence, you're able to analyze them very rigorously. And so we work with, unfortunately, I can't name them, but one of the big four consulting firms is doing this with their leading Fortune 500 customers, where they're taking their customer insights data, they're adding these dynamic prompts within them, and they're really getting a few levels of why down. So if someone talks about their customer experience as good or bad, they'll say, okay, tell me more, gets a lot more richness. We combine all of that, we analyze them, and again, they're able to go back to their customers and get a lot more value. And so again, the opportunity for an agency here is to think about like, okay, well, how could we work with a certain survey platform, combine that with Fathom, turn that into some deep audience listening type of a product that we could then sell in a differentiated way. So really big opportunity here. If you are interested in this, I would be very happy to share what we've learned because we've seen data coming out of a lot of the different platforms out there. And we have some strong opinions on what kinds of prompting and data structures are going to really serve you well at the end of the day, and which ones can honestly sort of leave you with a mess of data that's very difficult to actually make sense of. So I think this is another really big opportunity to consider as well. Now, the final sort of pinnacle of the pyramid is that once we have gained this efficiency, improved our morale, we were creating these new products. The final opportunity, of course, is to really position your business in a different way. And this is something that, of course, we did at Avalanche from the get-go. But I think there's no reason that other agencies and even folks like Emerald that I was mentioning are starting to do this as well. Because you have these unique offerings, you're then able to, frankly, speak to the age-old concerns customers have had. So for us at Avalanche, we were able to go to every customer who was tired of not deeply understanding their audience, of spending a ton of money and getting these focus groups that were too small of scale to trust, and these polls that were too superficial to truly understand, and they were deeply frustrated by that. And when we came along and said, we're different, we have a different approach, we use this unique product, and it speaks right to that position, and we are the firm that pioneered this and has been doing this the longest and the best, that creates a very compelling proposition for our customers. It creates a very compelling proposition for our team and for people who want to join the agency. And so that really, I think, is the opportunity once you have created these products, is not only to have the product, but really position as different from all the rest. Because I think if we're being honest, many agencies out there, I'm sure not the folks on this call, but many other agencies are frankly doing the same thing, writing very similar surveys, running very similar focus groups, and customers on the other end know this, and they're looking for something that is different. And it's really difficult to stand out as a research agency because the methods are somewhat, it's a finite universe of options. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here to leverage text analytics to expand that universe of what's possible in terms of product offering that really lets you break through and speak to those customer needs. And for us with Avalanche, that was absolutely the case. We went from a firm that no one had heard of and had not existed to one of the top 5 firms in our particular industry within 3 years. And all of that is because we were able to speak directly to this pain point in a really clear way, position ourselves accordingly, and deliver against that again and again. And so I think text analytics can sound like a sort of a tactical tool, but it really propels these new products that propel this different positioning that can be transformative in terms of creating something that really stands out from the noise. So the good news is that we literally built Fathom to enable you to do this. We built it first for ourselves. That went really well. And then we decided that we would repurpose that technology and provide it to people just like you. So this is the part of the conversation where I want to switch gears just a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it is that Fathom uniquely delivers against the capabilities that I mentioned here. And I mentioned that we deliver the highest quality coding in the industry. And what I mean by that is that the specificity leads to actionability. In addition to that, it's really different in terms of how you engage with the platform. So the way that Fathom works is you have your data, you upload it to Fathom, and then you get to go away and do other things. And at that point, our human in the loop system takes over. This really matters because there's a lot of other text analytics tools that promise time savings. And they say you're going to instantly have your data analyzed. But what it does is it creates a code frame that's not right. And then you spend hours, if not days, trying to fix it. And as a consequence, you're actually spending just as much time as if you had manually coded this thing, but instead you're sort of cleaning up after an AI that has run amok in your data. The next 2 things are really built for your ability to deliver customers rapidly. So I'll show you seamless reporting. There's a number of things we've really built in there, again, with an agency mindset. These were the things that we needed. I was talking about doing 10,000 response surveys, 24-hour turnaround with 10 open ends in it. We needed a set of features where we could very quickly move through the data, find the key insights, develop the visuals, and report out to our stakeholders. And then the final thing is that everything with Fathom is built to enable you to take the core data and build other products with it. That is critical if we think about the qualitative drivers analysis. You need the quality of labeling that I was talking about to be able to do that in the first place. And so you're able to pull all the raw data out of Fathom directly into your other, not only BI tools, but if you want to run more sophisticated statistical analyses and drive it directly into other products, it's set up exactly for you to be able to do that.